So welcome to this episode of Full Send. We are at NATDA, and this is the second episode that we're doing live. So right now we're live streaming on YouTube from NATDA. So kind of a dual-edged sword here. We have Ken with us from White Spruce Trailer Sales?
Yep, exactly.
All right, so
Out
we're
of
gonna
Alaska.
All the way in Alaska, yep.
Straight to the point, this what you do and what you don't do. No bullshit, sugarcoat when it comes to repairs and maintenance. Advice you can go to.
So 3 locations from the North Pole, Santa Claus and everything. So
do y'all help out with the whole present delivery thing?
we try. We actually offered some free sleigh repairs here a few years ago. That was kind of our big thing, and the community kind of got a big kick out of that. And
that's cool.
It was a really neat thing.
Awesome.
Nice. Yeah. So with us being at NATDA in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, you're from Alaska. How was your travels down here?
It's not too bad. We're used to flying, long distances anyways, because to go anywhere, Seattle's usually your first stop. So 3.5 hours to there, then 4.5 here. Easy layovers, not too bad. So
that's really not a bad journey.
Yeah, it's not bad. So
our first interviewee this morning had an 11-hour flight.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's
that's
rough.
tough. Yeah.
That was from England.
I've done
too.
those before, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not fun.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
So you said you got 3 locations. What all do you have there at those 3 locations? Like what kind of trailers and?
So we carry a very wide variety of everything. We've got aluminum, black iron, enclosed. I think we represent about 11 manufacturers, so heavily. We're spread across the state, Alaska being the largest state, right? So 9 hours between our furthest gap in dealerships, North Pole, Wasilla, and Anchorage being the southernmost. Provide parts, service, sales, all the above, rentals.
So
you do rentals too?
Rentals as well,
Nice.
yeah. It's been a really kind of key part of our company the last 3 or 4 years.
So what does that landscape look like? And you mentioned you do a lot of aluminum. Mm-hmm. Y'all sell a lot. Is that because like the salted roads, all the ice and that kind of stuff, or do you see another reason people are going for aluminum trailers over other options?
For us, it's really not salt. So they don't salt the roads. They actually use cinders. It gets too cold for salt. It doesn't actually activate. Just like chipped rock, real small, gravel cinders.
You learn something every
yeah,
day.
so it's too cold. So salt doesn't activate if it's too cold. Negative 40, negative 50 degrees just doesn't work.
So
right?
this is like hot for you here.
Yes and no. So humid. Like this isn't too hot, but it's very humid. We'll get 90 degrees in North Pole every year, but just 0 humidity. So it's a dry heat. Way better than this.
Yes, dry heat is a lot better than this humid stuff.
I don't know. The convection oven that we've been living in Texas for the last month and a half, I would take some humidity with that. At least you'd sweat.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's still not fun though. I mean, what is it, like 110 down there right now?
Right now it's like 90 back home.
All right. That's
but
doable.
The day before we left, it was like 105, 106, 107.
Saturday, it was 107 degrees, 108 degrees.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
But as soon as we leave, it cools down. And probably when we get back, it'll warm back up.
Yeah.
But, no, so what does that, because I know each state differs with the industry, like what they do, how they do it, the things that sell, the things that don't.
Right.
In Alaska, what does that landscape for your business really look like as far as specific to the Siberian winters y'all have?
So what we find there is what most people see as toys in the lower 48, snowmobiles, ATVs, side-by-sides are almost a have to have, right? It's actually more of a tool than a toy. Mm-hmm. So we do sell a lot of that smaller snow machine trailers, utilities that will carry a side-by-side or an ATV. And so that's, to answer your previous question, that's where the aluminum comes into play. We get a lot of light trailers. That's what they're looking for. Something that's easy. They can load side-by-side width, so 8.5 foot wide. You can put 2 ATVs or 2 snow machines side-by-side. Short wheelbases for parking in tight spots. So that's kind of what everybody's really geared towards is just that very lightweight, small,
so
dual-purpose trailer.
your landscape doesn't include like the 40-foot gooseneck. Like you might sell 1 or 2 of them, but that's not your everyday clientele.
Right. That's not our normal. Like you said, we do sell a few. We know we're probably 15 to 20, large goosenecks a year. But more of that utility style trailers are things. So car haulers is a massive part of what we do. Again, utilities upwards of 20 feet long, but typically 12, 14 foot is our bread and butter. And dump trailers. Dump and 3/4 tilt equipment trailers. It seems like just to deal with the landscape as far as tractors or skid steers, it's actually a very common place for a homeowner to have a skid steer or a tractor. Just for snow removal, a lot of dirt roads up there, so they're doing their own dirt
way
maintenance.
too expensive to live in Alaska.
It kind of is.
Oh man,
You ain't lying. Skid steer, side by side, trailer, another
It is,
trailer.
yeah. But what you find is everybody's kind of a jack of all trades, right? So they can kind of take care of themselves, and that's kind of the neat thing. And so we actually cater a lot to the homeowner that does more than your average homeowner.
yeah. So how long have you been in the trailer industry?
So I have been indirectly and directly involved for about 15 years. So when we first moved to Alaska, my wife and I, she actually got the job at White Spruce First as their bookkeeper. And I was still in the military at the time, which is how we migrated to Alaska. And I would just kind of help out here and there. If I wasn't deployed or on training missions, I'd come in, wash a trailer, put a few together, help out here and there. And then after I was medically retired from the military, Megan decided, hey, let's go ahead and buy the business. And so we bought into it.
So
and now I'm
part-time,
full-time.
fill in, help, like
Yeah.
I'm bored, let's do something, to it's mine now.
Yeah,
So-
and it was a very quick change and a very drastic change.
So you have 3 locations. How many employees do you have?
Right now we are at like 24, I believe, full-time with a couple part-times.
And then just all spread out through the 3 locations?
Yep.
How do you manage that?
So I am gone quite a bit. So not only am I trying to be the general manager and vice president of everything, I am traveling back and forth between these locations, pulling inventory. So inevitably, right, we can't have exactly what everybody wants at every location. Exactly. I am all over. So what's nice is I get that FaceTime usually once a week with at least at each location.
Okay.
And that helps a lot. One thing that I kind of brought from the military over is we really wanted to hone in on our processes. We wanted to make sure we streamlined them, made sure that everybody knew the process. And we wanted to make like a kind of McDonald's thing, right? Rinse and repeat. You can go work at any McDonald's because the process is the same. No matter what state, what city it is, it's the same. So we're trying to duplicate that same thing.
So you want like whichever dealership you show up at to go in, you know the process, you know how to get to point A to point B.
Exactly.
Everything's the same. Just
So
step
was
in
the
and step
process
out.
there when you bought it, or did you have to create it as you went?
It was there, but it wasn't refined. It wasn't really instilled, and it was kind of, I say a little scattered in a way of like our Anchorage store would do things one way, North Pole would do, the end result was the same,
Yeah.
but how they got there was a little different. So what we've done in streamlining that has helped a lot. The other thing we've tried to do is change the culture, right? We really wanted to bring about a true team aspect where it wasn't like this location versus this location. Like, don't get me wrong, like it's good to have pride in your location, but bringing a full team concept together has really helped a lot. And so different times, if we have a magnitude of loads showing up at one location, we'll bring employees from the other locations to come help out. And it's really neat. That process being the same has made that really simple. They can show up and just plug and play.
So with the 3 dealership locations, essentially you have 3 different sets of people, the way they do things. What do you do for your company culture that brings them together? Like, do y'all do events like, hey, everybody on this day, we're going to go do this? Or what does that look like when you're trying to get that company atmosphere or that company value, like the value of being part of the company where it's like the atmosphere? How do
Sure.
you tackle that?
Yeah, so every week we have a Tuesday and a Wednesday meeting before work starts, and it's all over Teams or Zoom is what we use now. And Tuesday is our fundamental. So every week we have a new fundamental that the entire company practices. We'll spend about 25 minutes talking about the fundamental, open it up for discussion, and everybody gets to give their input. We have 28 fundamentals, and when we got done, we kind of did the whole like Brian McKnight thing, start back at 1. We're now on our 3rd iteration of doing that. I taught the whole first series, then the employees taught the second series.
Oh, wow.
And that was kind of neat to
How'd
watch
that
them
go?
it was
Yeah.
great. They took ownership. They really nailed it. I mean, they
Were
were
they
making
nervous at
PowerPoints.
first? Or
The first few were, and what's funny is those who are very nervous about talking in front of people, doing it over Zoom really helped because they were just with their team that they're used to seeing every day. And then being on Zoom, they can turn their camera off or not even look at the screen, and it's okay. And it was great. Like I said, they took ownership. They were making PowerPoints, really kind of diving into it.
Any
That's
interpretive
great.
dance?
No, none of that
No.
yet. But, we're getting there. There was a few jokes that, the dad jokes come out and
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
But
they
you know,
got to.
yeah, so that helps. You know, we do that, and then on Wednesday, our lot technicians, which it's funny, a lot of companies look at their lot technicians as, you know, kind of like the last resort or like kind of lower on the totem pole. Well, for us, they're just as important as anybody else. If you're putting a trailer together at negative 40 outside, you deserve all my respect, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
no
that's
doubt.
our warehouse guys. This past 2 months, 3 months, 117 in a non-AC warehouse, packing stuff,
Bingo.
carrying stuff.
Yeah, moving
They're the heroes.
hot axles, tires, and wheels. And,
Yeah,
but
and see, these guys are touching every part in every single trailer, right? So as far as tribal knowledge goes, these guys have
Yeah.
it, right? So if we've got, you know, something we're noticing with manufacturers, like, hey, this is a new trend, why are they doing this? Or the loads are showing up like this. On Wednesday, they have 45 minutes that they can talk about that amongst the
That's pretty
locations,
neat.
and they can share that information.
And then also you said they had that tribal knowledge.
Bingo.
Those people are key for making those processes happen to get that documented and perfected
Exactly.
and implemented.
And the one good thing about our processes is they're ever evolving, right? And everybody has a part in making those changes.
If a company has processes and they're not ever evolving, there's something wrong.
Absolutely.
Because things change, people change, processes change.
Yeah.
But you still need that documented so people can know, just jump in there and get stuff done.
Absolutely. And, you know, kind of like the fundamentals piece, it gives them ownership, right? Anytime you can empower your employees and give them ownership in something, that's when they really kind of take hold of things. You see them grow, you see them strive. For example, we've got one employee, he started with us when he was 16. He was too young in the state of Alaska to actually use a pressure washer, so he was washing all our trailers with a hose and a sponge, right?
you have to have a certain age to use a pressure washer.
Yeah, certain pressures, you know, a certain PSI. It was just,
Okay.
you know, these
Mostly.
weird things. You know, it's a safety thing. And so, you know, child labor laws being what they are. And so he started with that, and then he kind of got to the point where now he could drive a tractor. Then he was building trailers. Then he kind of started helping out with service, really got into parts, became a service writer. He's been helping out with sales, and now he's our, you know, vice president of operations and oversees all of our parts and service for all 3 locations.
And how old is he now?
He's 24. So, and he's been with us
Dang.
ever since, and he's, you know,
You have
been a great
groomed that
asset.
you have groomed that man
Yeah.
for that position, and he is excelling at it. That is phenomenal.
That's awesome.
And that's all part of giving that ownership, right? And letting them actually take a piece of it and want to grow it themselves.
So what's the fundamental for the week this week?
So this week was speak straight. You know, how do you actually talk to somebody and give them the actual feedback they need, but do it respectfully, right? And so that's kind of a really tough thing sometimes, specifically when some topics are very difficult to talk to somebody.
That's similar
So
to
for us,
ours is transparent.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. It's a hard one because you have to let them know how they're doing it wrong, but to where you're not hurting their feelings, and still be able to get the message across and be
Right.
like, we can improve, but we just need to work on this.
Right.
Yep.
And see, now that we've kind of went through our iterations of our fundamentals, you'll see the guys, like when we start our open discussions, they'll start tying fundamentals together, right? So they'll be like, okay, so speak straight, but then we're going to also work on a team-oriented goal, right? We're going to figure out the solution together. So coming together for a positive solution, not just, hey, this is a problem.
Yeah.
And so that's helped out a lot. And you see these guys start tying these things together, and some guys will be having a rough day. And
just
they'll be
makes
like,
your heart warm. They're like,
Oh,
it's
it's great.
working. They're listening. Oh my gosh, they get this.
Yeah, I showed up the other day to our Whistle location, and you know, fundamental number 1 is maintain a positive attitude. And our mechanic was just having a bad day. Nothing was working out for him. You know, all the bolts were breaking that he was trying to work on. Just wasn't a good thing. And I looked at him, and he just kind of smiled, and he goes, "I'm just going to play number 1 today." And I was like, "Number 1? Oh, fundamental number 1, great." You know, and
Keep
so
it
they're
positive,
like,
yeah.
they're calling out numbers, and they're
So
doing it.
that's an
Sure.
example of a really good culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what
And-
we're trying to do.
If your
That's
guys
good.
are that deep into it, that's something that I would love to see, because we're starting that, and we go through our core values once a week. So we have a powwow at the end of the week at 4:30 on Friday, and we give an example of someone that's been either transparent, adaptive, goal oriented, that owns something, or we go through those. But I know from what I see, it doesn't go as deep as what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I would love to get that culture going and have that where everybody's worldview, their perspective is through those. And that's a hard thing to accomplish. And
Yeah.
it seems like you've done it, which that's phenomenal.
It's not perfect yet, we're still going, but it's been really neat to see a shift in the employees and how they work together, and the way they communicate together has changed quite a bit. Like I said, we're nowhere near perfect, but man, it's been really cool to watch that
I'll
dynamic.
say
and shift.
With us, I mean, when we first started doing it, it was a shocker for everybody, and especially in the powwow was, oh, I got to speak.
Yeah.
Now, some of them still are kind of hesitant to speak, but majority of them are more willing to speak and with ease and just say whatever the core value of the week is.
Yep.
And they look for it.
Because it used to be pulling teeth to get everybody to not say everybody, right? Everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
But even the people that were doing that because they were shy and didn't want to talk or they were just introverted, they're now coming out of their shell and
going into details, giving specific examples of how their coworker went above and beyond for
And I can tell you, for any business that wants to do it, if they really want to create a culture, like you definitely need to do it. Think about how you're going to do it. I will tell you this, the hardest part is creating initial buy-in. Getting buy-in from all your employees is essential. And that's the hardest part. And everybody's going to be different, right? Depending on the business, and how you run it and whatnot. But once you create that buy-in and you're in, it's smooth sailing because like I said, you'll watch them just kind of take off on their own and they're going to start doing things.
And it's going to come back and surprise you because they're going to take it this way when you thought this way, but this way really works. Like what they're doing with that conversation, how they're pulling in those to communicate to each other instead of it, y'all having to sit down. All right, we're going to talk this out. We're going to shoot straight. We're going to say it straight. We're going to go through this, but we're going to be team oriented in this. They're doing it on their own.
Yeah.
Like, and inside their self-management. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you'll see the guys that are, deathly quiet, right? They'll never say a word. And then out of nowhere, you watch them come out of their shell and they're like, oh, hey, I got a story about this. Wait, you know how to talk? We forgot about this.
English?
So,
Wait, you still work for us? You've just been sitting in the corner. What's going on here?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then of course we've got, our clowns that, always got to say a joke and whatnot. But what's kind of been neat is we have one guy, eat your vegetables. Like that's his thing. He wants to remind everybody to eat your vegetables to be healthy. So now at the end of every meeting, he says, eat your vegetables, and he'll call out somebody, and you have to say which vegetable you're going to eat for that week. It's just kind of a neat little thing. Like you'll see group dynamics start to form, and it's kind of neat to see. And you'll have your own little idiosyncrasies and whatnot, but man, it's really neat to see. The other thing we do, other than these fundamentals, as far as, going back to the original question is, we do have a company Christmas party that we bring all the locations together for that. Last week we had a company
Please tell me
picnic.
y'all do that at the North Pole location.
Yeah, we do. Well, we kind of go back and forth. We've been at North Pole for the last 3 or 4 years. Now we're going to go down to Anchorage just to give them the opportunity of doing things down there.
Something a little different.
Yeah, that way North Pole group gets to travel and it's not always bringing the other guys up. And the other thing too is we set a goal at the end of the year. We'll set a sales goal, and if the company meets it, we'll do a trip together. So we did a cruise right before the pandemic, we did a cruise. Last year we went to an all-inclusive resort in Mexico. We try to do something that is an all-inclusive type thing, like a cruise or a resort.
He's got the culture. He's got the trips.
Yeah. I mean, you got to come work for us. We're always looking for people right now.
I like my Texas, bro. I like my Texas.
That's true. But no, it's been really nice though. It gives them something to look forward to, especially we go in January, right? When the weather's not exactly the best. And then you get to go to a tropical climate and it makes them happy.
Most definitely.
But we choose these places that have, all inclusive because then it doesn't cost them anything.
Then they can enjoy themselves.
Exactly. So everybody gets to have the same experience.
Yeah.
That's great. So, what brought you to the show?
So we've been coming to the show for 8 or 9 years. I'm now part of the NATDA board as far as the dealer board. Been doing that for 3 years. But when we come to the show, we come here for a few things. First is probably camaraderie, right? You get to meet a lot of the same dealers year in, year out. Yep. And it's amazing to hear their stories and what's changing in their climate.
Second is the podcast. That's the whole reason he's here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. This is pretty bougie. I mean, this is if you're gonna do it, like this is definitely the way to do it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
But I think too, it is the one spot where I get to meet all my manufacturers, all my vendors, all in one thing. We bring a team member with us. Hunter, the guy I was talking about earlier, who's now our VP of operations. He's here for the first time, and he is kind of going, goo over all the part opportunities, and he's been in the service education. And I'd say education is probably the last thing. Like, to be here, to listen to some of these classes that people teach. I got to run one of the boards yesterday, dealer boards. Megan has taught, rentals in the past, and she's been on a dealer panel in the past. And to be a part of that and to listen in and hear what's going on in the rest of the country.
Absolutely.
If you can't walk away with some nuggets of wisdom,
Yeah,
you're here for the
most
wrong
definitely.
problem.
So we had Caitlin and Lacey. They headed up the Women in Business roundtable yesterday, and then I just about an hour ago got done teaching a class, which that was nerve-wracking and crazy. And after heckling a couple people, I was in my zone and I just went for it. But the amount of information that NATDA gives out is phenomenal. So even just walking the floor, being able to meet people and put, like, we have one of our e-commerce ladies here with us, just being able to meet vendors and putting a name to a face, and it just strengthens relationships and creates community.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And that's what I love about it. And I love the fact that we're here podcasting, talking to people, getting to, learn about them, because I'm a 100% people person if you haven't noticed. So this is right up my alley, and I'm able to do this and enjoy my time here.
Oh, absolutely.
I get to walk around, get hats, koozies, shirts, harass people, harass them into doing a podcast. I mean, it's phenomenal. Just the year after year, it's the same thing, but it's always different.
And it never gets old, right? I mean, that's the best part, And even though we've been like here in Nashville for what is like the fourth year in a row?
4 or 5 years.
I think this is the last year it's going to be here. I think they have to.
I think next year's the last year.
Something like that.
I think we got one more year here at least. But even though it's here, it's kind of neat. The after parties that the manufacturers throw off. But it's a good chance to really kind of talk to people who are in a similar market, doing similar things with the same product. But for different areas, and how they do things and what they receive and how they order parts and how they order their trailers. Again, if you're not learning from somebody here, you're here for the wrong reason.
Yep.
Yeah, plenty of knowledge out there. One thing I like is just seeing all the small little details that a lot of these manufacturers do, and changes that you're like, dang, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, no, to watch these guys continually innovate. You think a trailer is a trailer, and then every year somebody's coming out with something and just blowing your mind.
I know next year I'm going to start a poll for what color Diamond C's trailers are going to be, because I called white this year, and I was told, nah, they're not going to do white.
Spot
Walked
on.
in, I'm like, I could have made $10, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it has been a pleasure, Ken.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll have you on the show again. Hey, there's always Zoom and Google Meet.
Absolutely.
You use it every week for your teams.
Yep.
You can always join us that way. But it's been
Sounds
a pleasure.
great. Yeah, definitely.
Getting to know you and your story.
All right, awesome.
So,
Thanks a lot, guys.
see you on the next
Good being here.
episode.
Yeah. Take care.